Despite this episode, Freemasonry was to flourish under the Third Republic, the central political issue for many years. An issue still not entirely dormant in France had been the antagonism between state and church. Catholic hostility to Freemasonry was unabated, and Freemasons supported governments that imposed restrictions on religious orders and refused financial aid to church schools. The France of the Third Republic had two rival establishments, each powerful in its own sphere. Regular attendance at Mass led to promotion in the army, while anti-clerical views made it likely in the universities and in the civil service. Where their outlook was favored, Freemasons often rose to high positions. Anathematized by the Vatican and still forbidden and persecuted in Spain, Freemasonry was the target of fierce verbal attacks almost everywhere. Even in Britain, despite its obvious respectability, it had its enemies. In America, a sensation was caused by the murder, allegedly by Masons, of William Morgan, who had published an exposure of Freemasonry in 1826. Lodges were attacked by mobs, many of them had to close down, and the issue was drawn to the political arena by anti-Masonic candidates for election. It was not until the second half of the century that American Freemasonry recovered from those blows. Today it is firmly established and regarded as above reproach socially and politically. Its membership is made up chiefly of businessmen. The United States is in fact the chief stronghold of Freemasonry today. As might be expected, all attacks on Freemasonry have exploited the secrecy of Masonic ritual, the oath quoted at the beginning of this chapter, and the privacy of the lodge meetings. Its opponents have reiterated the argument of Clement XII that what is secret must be sinister, and have even revived the Abbé Barrault's theory about the role of Freemasonry in the French Revolution. Some have tried to trace the chain of events to the Masonic links with the Carbonari and Masonic support of the left in France, in order to prove that the Freemasons with the Illuminati, alleged to be still secretly functioning as the directing center, were weaving ceaseless plots to disrupt the established social order and plunge the world into anarchy. The Russian Revolution of 1917 has been represented as a Masonic achievement, and Freemasonry has been denounced as the ally or inspirer of communism, despite the fact that it is forbidden in communist countries. Masons have been blamed for the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Franz Ferdinand? Masons have been blamed for the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, which sparked off World War I. For the ruinous German inflation of 1924, and for the Spanish Civil War. Very often, and notably during the Dreyfus Affair in France, anti-Masonry has gone hand in hand with anti-Semitism. Freemasons and Jews have been bracketed as evil international conspirators, bent on undermining patriotism, destroying the security of plain honest folk. Somehow that they have been depicted as ruthless capitalists and communists at the same time. In Europe, the attacks mounted to a climax with the ascendancy of fascism and Nazism. Mussolini dissolved the Italian lodges, and many Freemasons were imprisoned or exiled. Hitler acted yet more ruthlessly in Germany and in the countries he conquered. Freemasons in considerable numbers ended their lives in concentration camps. In France and elsewhere, Freemasons and devout Catholics, as well as men of the left and conservative-minded patriots, worked together in the resistance movement and suffered together in Gestapo jails and concentration camps. Since the end of World War II, the warfare between the Church and Freemasonry has been largely a thing of the past, though its echoes are still heard from time to time. In England, where high dignitaries of established church are Freemasons, some people still argue that the religious syncretism of Freemasonry makes it incompatible with any Christian orthodoxy, and allege, for example, that some of the Masonic passwords have a pagan and therefore satanic derivation. Fuck, that's a lot to handle. The archaic oath of secrecy with its gruesome penalty has also been the subject for much controversy. Yeah, because I'd be dead. Though needless to say, it has never been enforced. Indeed, many people who take the oath today would be hard put... I'm just flabbergasted. Where am I? The archaic oath of secrecy with its gruesome penalty has also been the subject of much controversy, though, needless to say, it has never been enforced. Indeed, many people who take the oath today would be hard put to it to define what they are supposed to keep secret, unless it is simply the ritual steps, signs, and passwords. These have long been accessible to any outsiders who cares to do a little research in a good library, for Freemasonry has a vast literature. There are at least 100,000 published works of the subject, though many are no more than anti-Masonic or pro-Masonic fantasies. In some respects, Freemasonry represents a development analogous to Rorschachism, though it has been far more influential. Conceived in an age that was deeply concerned with the nature of the universe and of man, it received its impetus from a sincere spirit of inquiry and could thus be a genuine source of enlightenment, whether intellectual or moral. Today, though it no longer has the same impetus, Freemasonry still seems to have something to offer its members. For most of them, it may be little more than a social club with an added attraction of secrecy. Many, no doubt, also enjoy the enactment of the rituals. Some believe that the Masonic teachings embodies an ancient wisdom which has been passed like a golden thread from civilization to civilization. And some understand it as a system of self-development. Nevertheless, many people are drawn to the organization by the belief that membership will bring them material benefits, whether through the practice of Masonic principles in the business world, one of the spheres in which Masonic handshakes and code questions are still widely used as a means of recognition, or through Masonic charity, which raises large sums of money each year for the endowment of Masonic schools, orphanages, hospitals, and old age homes. In today's highly industrialized societies, Freemasonry seems to be becoming more and more like an unofficial guild of businessmen, if only because it does not require mutual aid and square dealing amongst its members. There is no reason to suppose that outsiders are necessarily denied such treatment, nor that such practices must be detrimental to the business world as a whole. As far as most of its members are concerned, Freemasonry is today a lively and effectuous mutual aid society whose ritual is considered not invalidated by age and is no less relevant to modern life than the rituals of law courts, the universities, or any public body. I read a red book, finally. I read it poorly, but I hope you learned something.